Okay, so thanks for inviting me. And today I will just share a bit about what I've been up to since I completed my PhD from the University of Glasgow in 2022. So I will talk about broadening participation in computer science education, particularly from the K-12 context, and lessons I learned from CSED Botswana. So this is how my presentation will go, with me starting with introducing myself and then explaining CSED Botswana and what we can learn from it, the challenges, future directions, and then we can discuss. So a little bit about me. I'm in both those pictures where I just grew up in Botswana, and I was going to public schools in Botswana, and I was just the girl who was good in mathematics and science-related courses or subjects. And I just wanted to, be one of the top in my classes. And I did well after my Form 5, which is high school. And when we were asked to apply for university, which was more of an automatic process, I just knew automatically I'll go and choose a science, related major, because I did well with the sciences. So, when we were there just discussing with our friends and peers, we heard of this computer science, new course in the University of Botswana, and we just like, yeah, they guarantee that when you take this course, when you finish, you will get a job. You are guaranteed a job. Because in Botswana, jobs are not so easy. Of course, a degree that will give you a job upon completion, that's the one you'll go for. So that's how I ended in computer science. Um, so it wasn't about passion, and my experience learning computer science in undergraduate was not the best one, particularly when they were teaching introduction to programming courses using Java. That's what we were learning, and I just felt the way we were taught really did not motivate majority of the class to keep going. Although if you are persistent like myself, we went on and finished our degrees with good grades. But I told myself I'll never be a software engineer because I didn't like the experience of learning programming in my undergrad, although I passed it. But I then became a database administrator and worked with Unix servers and doing SQL reports for the University of Botswana. After 7 years, I felt I need a different challenge and a more flexible job. So I joined academia. That was shortly after I completed my master's degree. And I started, understanding a little bit the world of academia. But shortly after that, I was taken for PhD, and I went to the University of Glasgow. That's where I met Waka. And yeah, so that when I got to the University of Glasgow, that is when I started understanding computer science education, computer science concepts. And then I looked back and I was like, wow, now I know what was missing when I was learning computer sciences undergrad. I felt we were using, a textbook that's so unfamiliar. The examples were so unfamiliar. And we were just thrown, public void main, string ARGS, hello world, and you just like, what am I doing? So it was a little bit weird, a new language and some new concepts. So I, started having the interest in learning a bit more about how people learn and teach computer science. And I did a PhD where I studied further, particularly programming languages. and how the concepts between different programming languages are related, and how students learn every time they are transitioning between programming languages. So I completed my PhD in 2022. I went back to Botswana, and I had this passion to just make a change with all this new acquired knowledge that I got from my PhD. And I was like, yeah, now I'm realizing we need to change Botswana. We need to, make students learn coding. We need to, just broaden participation like all these developed countries are doing. So I just came with this passion to make the big change. And at that point, I wasn't even thinking it's not like easy to make a country level change, but that's what I thought was going to happen. And that's how CSET Botswana was born. So CSET Botswana stands for Computer Science Education Botswana, and it follows the PkCEP framework, which is Expanding Computing Education Pathways framework, which was developed in the United States, and currently 30 states are following this framework, and it's led by Carol Fletcher and the rest of the PkCEP team. So this model, this is how they have a framework to say this is how you can make impact and advocate for change in your respective country. So they encourage you to find leaders who can be the agents of the change, understand the landscape of your country and what are the key issues and policies. You should be able to gather, at least to establish the goals and develop a strategic plan, get some funding, and build and engage students and teachers, and broaden participation in that capacity. So with that model in mind, the whole idea of CSET Botswana was to advocate for equitable, high-quality computer science education in Botswana, to help with building, the diverse workforce that we need for today's world, maybe empowering teachers and strengthening the Botswana curricula, fostering policies, and just like all these big ideas that are in this goal. So that's how it started in 2022. So what I did, I started recruiting the advisory board for this CSET Botswana. So I started, the first person I talked with was Alan Peter Friend, who is also a leader in PkCEP, who was like, yeah, I think this will be cool for us to go check how PkCEP would work in the context of an African country. And then I recruited, the head of Department of Maths and Science Education, the managing director of Diamond Trading Company, and all these industry partners, and my PhD supervisor, Quentin Katz, and Dr. Sue Sentence from the UK. And also Ms. Ngope from the Ministry of Education. So the idea of putting these people together was to, get to learn from them. They are holding powerful positions within wherever they are placed. And I was hoping that, with them, they will be guiding CSET Botswana, what we are doing, what we are implementing. And we do meet once or twice a year to discuss the progress of CSET Botswana. So CSET Botswana is a multi-stakeholder model. So it's not me doing everything. It's not one particular person doing everything. It's like a group of people who are just coming together to, and share a common goal of broadening participation. So from this picture, you will see we have, some of the advisory board members. We have people who have been seeing what we are doing in CSET Botswana, like Emma, Dodo, who was a PhD student in University of Michigan and an African, and was interested and came all the way to Botswana to help. We have the media outlets who are helping spread the word. We have volunteers who help us with facilitation of our coding activities. We also have people around the world and within Botswana who are just volunteering their time to help with CS at Botswana. So these these are just some of the people we've been working with since starting this initiative in 2022, towards the end of 2022. So the interventions we've performed or we've had since starting, they started in 2023, where we had a summit where it was the first computer science education summit in Botswana. We had around 200 participants coming from the US, the UK, and the majority were from Botswana, where we were having the ministries, people of influence, the curriculum department team. We had the teachers, the universities and the industry who were funding this summit, like Diamond Trading Company, Botswana. They funded most of the, the money that led to the success of this event. So we sat down in one room for 2 days just to discuss the state of computer science education in Botswana and a way forward. So it was our idea to have this summit as a starting point, because it had all the people who will make the necessary change to make change the state of computer science education in Botswana, like the curriculum team. They have the power to change the curricula. The ministry, they have the power to implement and roll out computer science in schools. And by the end of the summit, we were just so excited. Even the curriculum director was saying, "What do you want me to do, guys? I can do anything you want me to do." So shortly after the summit, we even met with the curriculum team and advised them, on some things we found wrong with the proposed curriculum. And we sorry, the kids are disturbing me. I'm sorry. Yeah, it's night this side. I'm sorry. Yeah. So we were just talking about how they can implement a curricula that's more friendly and easily adoptable by our Botswana students. So we started having hourly coding events. From year one, we had like 20 teachers wanting to participate in Hour of Code with around 500 students. Year two, we had, the teachers increasing to 300 and the students were around 1 point something. And then year three in 2025, we had around 400 teachers and around 2,000 students participating. So sorry for a second. So okay, okay. Sorry about that. So we had these 3-year interventions happening from 2023 to 2025, and we can see the increase in participation. So we had teacher trainings happening from the 2023 to 2025, where we were just doing physical trainings or even online trainings. And this has been going on. I think the last training we did was this March. I think, yeah, it was this March 2025. So what we've been doing with the teachers, we were teaching them the basics of coding using unplugged activities because primary schools do not have computers. We were also teaching them how to code using text-based languages, and we were also teaching them how to train machine learning models as well as block-based programming. So what happens usually during the coding national activities, you have all these different entities coming together to support the activities. So we will be having partnerships with the Ministry of Education where they give us the endorsements, first of all, and they are our entry point into the schools, and they help connect us to the teachers. And then the teachers are the ones who lead, these initiatives within their respective schools. And that's why we train them. So then the training cascades down to their students. We have researchers who participate and volunteer in CSET Botswana to help create lesson plans. And then we have these short-term partners who usually would give, some amounts of money to help take facilitators from all regions of Botswana, from rural to urban areas where they teach students coding. And we also have the media who are always ready and to spread the word of the activities that are happening. So in terms of the code labs and coding activities, we have reached, like I'm saying, so many thousands of students. And each time after a coding activity, they want to do more. Even if we give them 2 hours, they want to go on 3 hours for us or the whole day, and they want the frequency to increase. So this is just, it's mind-blowing because what usually happens during the national coding activities, they could be happening in, so many schools at the same time. And we are just all sharing live what each school is doing. So they happen at the same time, and people are spread, like facilitators and teachers are spread all over Botswana to do the interventions at the same time, which makes it really amazing. So in terms of research with this initiative, we do carry on doing research since 2023 to now. We have also some paper submissions which are not included in this list, but we have been making sure that every time we do interventions within Botswana context, we also collect data to understand how students learn computer science in our context, and to understand how we can improve their learning of computer science. So the lessons that we have learned from our research is that short-term interventions actually do have an impact. So we've had 80% of participating teachers wanting to start coding clubs. So the interesting thing with this is the passion is there from both the teachers and ourselves, but the sustainability is the hard part because coding clubs need extra dedication that the teachers are not paid to do. So this is the biggest struggle, the coding clubs. But then in terms of our national coding activities, which are spread across all schools, this one is always doable, and the participation always increases per year as the years go by. So we find that 98% of teachers want to run above code events again within their schools. And then of the teachers we've been interviewing about the impact or what's happening, because it's hard to trace. That's another challenge. It's hard to trace the impact. But those teachers were telling us, they've seen even after the coding activities, 63% of the students continue to do coding on their own. So this is something that shows you that short-term interventions can also have impact. And also we have published the work on bilingual programming, where we were meeting with the teachers to help us create the coding activity curriculum for last year's activity, and we had them advising us on, bilingual programming, because the teachers themselves, they were telling us that it's hard to, at first I had translated all this heady code into Setswana, and I gave it to the teachers, and they were saying it's very hard to read completely code in Setswana. So they advised us to keep the keywords in English, and the inputs outputs can be in Setswana, or even a mix, because what they were saying is that even spoken language in Botswana right now, it's a mix of English and Setswana, because the students at schools, they are taught in English, although they speak Setswana at home and with their friends. So we find the languages mixing up. So what the results showed us when we gave students this activity last year, where they were creating a restaurant system in the context of Setswana, and calling it in a Setswana name, not a restaurant, and also the menus that were being offered in that restaurant system were our traditional food, and they were allowed to also use Setswana to name those food, or even ask a customer, how can I, serve you? Like you can see the command dino is ask o batla go nwang. It's basically a variable dino, and his ask is like an equal assignment, and o batla go nwang in purple, those are the prompts that you give the user. So then they enter the answer. So the students were enjoying bilingual programming. That's what they reported, because we gave them quantitative and qualitative, data. We did data collection in that way. So they reported enjoying coding with the mix of the languages, and they, reported, we also saw some greater comfort and engagement with students who were coding in bilingual versus in English. However, we didn't see any significant differences in their attitudes toward coding, like confidence, enjoyment, usefulness. They were just similarly to the ones who were coding in English. And this study was confirmed where I am at San Jose State University. We also did a similar study, and in terms of attitudes, they did not change, but there are some other benefits to that. So it's just an area where we need to explore more, because what students were telling us is the translation difficulties. They feel some terminologies are being lost when code is being converted to their native language, and they feel the school system, they are being taught in English, so it's hard for them to keep switching between the two languages. Some of them have limited vocabulary with their native languages, but that, and also some cultural examples may be out of context. For the modern, our culture is not their culture. So this has just taught us, to engage them when we do these types of translations, because bilingual programming, there's hope in there. We just need to dig deeper into how we can make it a success in broadening participation. So in terms of AI, we learned also that 95% of the Botswana students surveyed, they use AI to help them with schoolworks. And the teachers are using less AI than them, because 64% of teachers were reporting to use AI, which means we need to improve the training and the exposure. And what we also learned is that Botswana is still at capacity level of providing and computer science using the CAPE framework, which is a framework that addresses 4 key components of CS education. So Botswana, we wrote a paper at the bottom layer there. We expanded the capacity to say, until we deal with policy funding, the ICT infrastructure, the curricula, and PD, it's gonna be hard to think about access, participation, and experience in learning computing. So we do have these challenges that I told you about, and one of the biggest one is lack of funding. When we do get funding, it's short-term based, and that limits how we can scale this work and have committed people who can, help support it. But our future directions, we want to keep at the advocacy level, so that Botswana can make the necessary change. And we're hoping that in the future, our, interventions will scale up, we'll find long-term partners. And more importantly, we are hoping that we will have the nation change, a bigger impact where the curriculum will be changing and the teachers will be trained properly in order to teach computer science in schools. So yeah, this is the end of my presentation, and I'll open room for questions. Thanks, Waka. Yeah.
Right. So if we have any question from Ethel, anybody? You have one? Just to, can you hear me, Ethel?
Yes, I can hear.
So just to get everyone warmed up. My question is not quantitative. You said you wanted to bring a change. You were young and fresh out of college and an idealist, of course, and that's always a great thing. But after all these years, has your idealism given way to something else, practical, pragmatic, perhaps? And about the change you expected to bring to your dear Botswana, how does that look like now?
Yes, so thanks for the question. The first one, I'm not sure I understood, but for the second one, I would say this is something that sometimes I laugh about when I think about it, because, like you are saying, I started with the excitement. You know how when we are coming from a less developed country, you go learn abroad, you come back to try to make the necessary change in your country because you've learned something more, right? And you come with the mindset that your country will, accept what you are bringing and, bring you into these important meetings that make the necessary change you are hoping for. And it doesn't become the case. So I've seen myself really going through a lot of emotions of frustration, of feeling like maybe they are not recognizing our efforts, even though you can see all these pictures and we are not even asking for money from them per se. We just want them to make room for the necessary long-term changes. So what I can say is that um, at this point, the change that we were hoping for has not happened. So what is happening right now is short-term interventions that keep going annually. And we are hoping that, they will make some type of impact to these people who are being exposed to programming and to computer science basics. And it's not only in Botswana, in the US, they are also experiencing, similar situations where it's hard to make change at a national level, at the national level. But we are grateful for the doors that have been opened to get in and do the short-term interventions. So in terms of research, I don't know if that was the first question. The research is opening doors for me to understand bilingual programming contextualization, and I'm collaborating with even other researchers outside of Botswana to understand contextualization at a larger scale in different countries. And I think I'm learning as I'm going.